Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Love's Teaching Will Travel. Today we have a special guest with us. We have Carynne. Carynne, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carynne Martin, and I am very excited to be here and share my experience with you all.
Welcome, welcome. We're happy to have you. Now, we're going to start with just having you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So, I am a preschool teacher by day, and by night, I am a dog mom. So, I'm a very busy person. But just more about my background. I got my bachelor's in psychology, a master's in healthcare administration. And as I become to grow as a professional, I have realized I don't want to do any of that. So in 2019, I took a leap of faith and, I started a teaching career, not having a background in teaching at all. And I have learned that it is actually a passion of mine. Now, I won't say I teach all grades. I do have my soft spot, which is preschool, which is where I am now. And, I've been in it for about going on 5 years now, and I'm pretty sure this is the happiest I've been in my life professionally. Yes, so that's a little bit about me, my background. Oh, and I'm originally from New York, born and raised.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that with us. Now, you mentioned getting into teaching and finding
Mhm,
it to be your passion now.
mhm.
What called you to the teaching profession?
Honestly, I don't think anything called me. I think it was just the fact that an opportunity was thrown my way. And I've always grown up learning never leave any opportunity, out there in the wind. So I think that was what drew me to it, not so much as me being called to it or anything like that. Because I never wanted to be a teacher. I remember myself in high school saying, I do not want to be a teacher. So the fact that this is where I'm at now, it's still mind blowing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, tell us how you started your teaching journey abroad. This is something I'm curious about.
So, in my last year of my master's program, I was inducted into the Honor Society. And, we would get the emails about, different job opportunities. So one day I checked my email and there was an opportunity that said teach abroad in China. So in college, I never was one of those students that got the chance to study abroad. So I said, hey, this might be my chance, although I'll be on the opposite side. I'll be teaching instead of learning. So you know what I said? Why not? Why not take a chance? Why not take a leap? And honestly, at that time in my life, I was not in a good place professionally, financially, nothing. So I said, you know what? This might be God's way of just saying, this is the break I'm trying to give you. So I applied, not thinking I would actually get it or even get an interview. I applied, and 2 days later, I was called for an interview. And a week later, I had my contract, and they were trying to ship me out to China. Mind you, I didn't tell my parents, I didn't tell my friends, anybody. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how that started.
So things happened fast. Things moved fast.
Very fast. Like, even before, that's why I didn't even tell anybody because I myself didn't have the time to process what was actually happening. Like, you're actually going to China, a whole nother continent, a whole nother country you've never been in. So I think it took a little while for it to kick in, like, you're actually doing this. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. Tell me a little bit of how your friends and family reacted to this.
So the first person I actually told was my mom. And she's usually the one that, even though she'll have her reservations or not, I don't want to say worry, because she tries not to be a person to worry. Just her little apprehensions. She's always supported what I've done no matter. But this, she was like, this is a big step. And the first question she asked me, which a lot of people ask me, is why China? And without me even thinking about it, I said, why not China? Why not? It's another country like anywhere else. And she just said, I want you to pray about it before you finalize everything. Make sure this is something you really want to do. Do your research on the safety, other things that parents will tell you. So, even though she had her little, doubts or whatever that she might have had, not specifically about me going there, it was just more so she wanted to make sure everything was in place for me. But she was supportive about it. And then the second people I told as a group collective were my best friends. And again, the question came up, why are you going to China? So I think it was just more so because of what people see on TV or what they hear about the country. That was their automatic thought, like, why would you want to go there? So yeah, I think for most people it was just a why are you going there type of response. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Now, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into your
Mhm.
experience in China. And
Okay.
you're free to say as much as you want or as little as possible, but just
Mhm.
maybe kind of walk us through like some of your experiences and what you really enjoyed about going there.
Mhm. All right. So I'm going to start with what I enjoyed because there's more for me there's more pros than cons. I would say the very first thing that I really enjoyed was how beautiful the country is and how much we don't get to see of their beauty. My first thing when I went on that plane, I was like, I want to go and I want to explore that side of the world. I wasn't even thinking about traveling around China pretty much. I was thinking about traveling to other places, and China would just be close enough where it would be cheaper for me. But because of, COVID happening, that was not an option. So I said, you know what? I'm still going to take the opportunity and see what this country has to offer. And some of the most beautiful, green, luscious landscapes and mountains and just like breathtaking. And, it got me to thinking like, wow, like this country doesn't get enough credit for its beauty. So I was like, wow, this is mind blowing to me. Number two would have to be the history behind the country, Other than their political views and things like that, like they are very proud of their history and what their country has overcome and how they've kind of centered themselves around this collective community. Like everything is based on family and togetherness and doing things as one, not divided between this party and whatever, goes on in other countries. But those were the things I probably enjoyed the most because it made it easier for me to immerse myself in the culture because it was so rich and it was so much to learn and it was like you wanted to kind of learn everything about their country. The few cons here and there. Yes, you do have the age old, they're staring and the questions about your hair and I did get a lot of that. I'm not gonna sit here and say, no, that doesn't happen. As soon as I stepped off the plane, it was happening. I had people taking pictures of me and, some in a rude way, some would ask and be polite about it, and some would just be, kind of annoying. And like, I had an instance where I was sitting at McDonald's just having my lunch, and this whole family decides to sit next to me, and there's a whole bunch of other chairs there. But no, they sat right next to me, and long and behold, the phone comes out, and grandma's peeping her head next to me, and I'm like, this is not the time or the place. I'm trying to have my lunch, and y'all are disturbing me. So, yeah, that was probably one of the most annoying parts about being there. But after you kind of learn how to handle it and handle yourself around it, it's like you kind of put up that wall, and then they can already see like, no, we're not gonna mess with her today or anything like that. And probably the second thing that I was kind of like, was the food. And I'm a big foodie. So I was like, I can't get with this food, y'all. So actually, when I was out there, I actually started on like a heavy plant-based diet and a heavy like vegetarian diet because I was like, I cannot. Mm-mm.
You weren't feeling it?
I was not feeling it, girl. I was
Oh,
like,
no.
I could see how you could probably get used to it if you lived there probably longer than 5 years. But I was like,
It wasn't for you. And that's
it wasn't for me.
okay.
But
And
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, because
Right?
some people like it, some people don't.
Exactly. It's not for
Yeah.
everyone. Okay.
hmm
All right. Tell us a little bit about your school experience. What was that like?
So I first started out in a training center. So training center is different than a school per se because it's more so an after like an extracurricular for the kids. So it's not really too stringent on you having to make sure they're ready for testing or anything like that. Where it becomes quite strict is them actually coming away with the language. And those kids were a little older. They went from 3 to 8. So it was a lot of lesson planning and making sure, when they came out of that classroom, they understood the lesson that was taught for that day. For me personally, it was not an enjoyable experience. It was very stressful. It was, I just felt like I was tied down to having to follow this curriculum to the T, no room for creativity. And it stressed me out because you couldn't like say if the kids didn't understand that part of the lesson that day, maybe move on to it to the next week and kind of, maybe dive in deeper. No, if they didn't learn it that day, you still had to move on. And, that was it didn't look good on you as a teacher if your kids came away and they didn't understand what was going on. Because parents are paying for this, parents are looking at this like, why are my kids still not learning? And we're sending them here every week. So it just got to the point where I'm so serious. When COVID hit, I was so happy to not have to go in. I was like, yes, I don't have to go in. I don't have to deal with it. And not for nothing, like the management there was really nice, but you have your few, as is in every workplace, that were just, they kind of looked at you like you're an English speaker, you're supposed to be knowing how to do this. And I'm like, half of the people that you hired here don't have a background in education. So you can't expect us to like know how to fully teach this just by you doing a training for 8 weeks or however long the training was. Because knowing English and teaching English is two different things. So yeah, the expectation of what they wanted was kind of it was out of this world. But I met really good people there. I had a really good experience as far as living in Beijing, which I was at the time at first, and just getting to know like the country in that part of the country at that time. But as far as the job, mm-mm, no. So that was my first experience, and then due to COVID, I ended up having to get another job. And I said, you know what, this is my chance to see another city. So I ended up applying for a school in Shanghai. And that was the best experience ever. And this is where I say, I know what age group I like to teach because this is when we had the younger kids. I think my youngest student was about 6 months and it went up to 2 years old.
So
Yes,
cute.
so these
So,
are
so
like
cute.
babies, babies. And I feel like this is where I got to show more of my creativity. I got to be myself more because at this age, not only are they trying to learn a new language, but they're also learning about their social skills, their emotional skills. They're learning how to play, they're learning how to interact with their friends. So I felt like this was more of a calming, more, just it allowed room for growth. It allowed you to kind of relax, and it wasn't as stressful. So I think this is where I had the most fun teaching. And man, it was a blast. Like seeing these kids come in and just, and some of them didn't even know how to talk, and they would leave there at least knowing a few words in English and in Chinese in their own native tongue. Um, so just to see them kind of grow and grow through the school, it was like, wow, like we're doing something good here. Okay, okay. And for me, it was a matter of I could actually also communicate with the parents because a lot of them didn't know English. So it was a bit easier for me, to kind of understand what the parents wanted out of the program, what their expectations were was for their children. So yeah, I think that was it for me. That's what solidified my, kind of decision to want to stay in that age group and eventually deciding that I wanted to stay in Montessori because Montessori, deals with that age group. So yes, a good and a not so good experience, I should say, teaching.
But this is what we need to hear, right? There are a
Hmm.
lot of people who they hear about opportunities to go abroad and teach abroad, and they only get to hear the glamorous side or the
Yes.
positive side. But you need to
Hmm.
hear the good and the bad, right? No matter what it
Hmm.
is, because this is going to help you make a better informed decision if this is
Exactly.
for you, right?
Hmm.
As a Montessori mom, I'm happy that you like Montessori.
Love
Uh,
it.
it's a great program. It's great for the
Hmm.
children. It's great overall. When you can create an environment that really helps to foster independence with young children. As a former preschool teacher, I'm happy to hear that you're in love with preschool because it is my expertise, and I love young children. I think working
Hmm.
with young children is an absolute beautiful job. It's not for everyone, and you have to do it if it's something that feels right for you. So this is good to hear, and I think not enough people hear from those who teach abroad in preschool,
Hmm.
right? It's usually elementary school or maybe an international
Yes.
school where you're teaching middle
Hmm.
school or something else, but there are opportunities out there for preschool teachers, and
Hmm.
seeing how preschool teachers are treated here and not really paid here, it's
Yes.
it's good to know you have options, right? It's good
Hmm.
to know.
Hmm.
So I wanted to hear a little bit about your travel experience. Like, I know you've been bitten by the travel bug, so
Oh,
tell us a
praise
little
God.
bit about your travel experiences and some of your favorite places
Do you mean like within when I was over there or just like in general?
in general.
Okay. Um, I would say, in May, I just did a solo trip to Portugal, and that was probably the most I would what's the word I'm looking for? Jam-packed but best experience ever. So I am not a big planner, especially when it comes to trips, as far as making an itinerary and anything like that. I am not the best at. And then when you're doing a solo trip, you kind of need to have a plan set because it's either you're going to be sitting in your hotel the whole time or you're just going to be just kind of lost. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go on Airbnb and find some of these experiences. Long and behold, best decision ever. I truly recommend it. I was able to do a photography tour, which I was able to see much of the city and have photos, professional photos taken of me. Whereas if I was over here taking my selfies, it wouldn't have looked great. Secondly, I was able to do all of these other tours where I was able to meet other solo travelers, some of which I'm actually still in contact with today. So that's another thing. Like a lot of people, I think they think solo travel and they're like, well, I'm going to be by myself. I'm going to be bored. No, if you do most of these tours, you will find other people that are in the same boat as you. So, good connections, and it felt good to go there and say, I did what I went there to do. I didn't leave there feeling like, oh, I missed out on something or anything like that, because I was able to use the Airbnb and just like whatever I wanted to do, it was right there. Whether I wanted to do a wine tasting tour or a bike tour, it was there. So yeah, I definitely recommend for solo travelers, do as much tours as you can while you're in that country. Um, and I would say with China, oh man, I got some strong thighs. A lot of hiking. A lot of hiking. I think that's why the hiking bugging me is gone. It's gone. Every single trip I went on, and most of them were solo, I went by myself. It was just all this hiking. I was like, I'm over here like on the Great Wall and I'm like on all fours, and you have these old people that are just pushing past me, and I'm like, how? I'm literally drenched in sweat. I cannot even stand up. These stairs are steep as heck. How are y'all just walking up this mountain? Because I don't understand. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I think I've been really, into this traveling, and I don't think it's just because I want to travel just to travel. I think I'm just trying to, learn more about other countries. And I made a pact to myself, every country that I do visit, I want to at least learn or do a tour or kind of immerse myself in the African diaspora because I feel like that's also important. Like, I feel like as a Black woman, I need to understand how my ancestors, influenced the world because we did. Some of the history might be hidden, we don't know about it, so it's out there for us to find it and learn about it. So yeah. That's
Exciting
my
stuff.
yeah.
Exciting stuff. I love to
Mhm.
hear it. I love to hear it. I think that's definitely one of the things I also try to do when I travel is take
Mhm.
cooking classes or just try to immerse myself somehow in what's
Mhm.
happening there, right? Because it's not enough to just go and you're like, okay, I've visited this museum or I've hopped here, hopped there, and then you're
Mhm.
gone. You want to really kind of build some type of connection and then also meeting people on the journey is also a good one.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
this is good. I'm happy to hear it.
Yes.
Happy to hear it. Now, is there a question I didn't ask you that you wish I did?
Mm, I don't know, because I feel like people hear this all the time, but maybe just, how to, okay, for people that come from a big city or like a small, like country, like town or something, I feel like a lot of people that come from certain places within the US, it's a different, kind of experience for them. And I've seen and I've, experienced both sides. So I guess the question I'm trying to come up with here is like how to adapt depending on like where you come from or where your hometown is if you were to adapt to another country.
Okay, well, you can answer that for us. Like, how did you adapt?
So me being from a big city like New York City, I feel like it helps because you kind of get a little bit of the world in New York City anyway. It's such a melting pot. You see people from different countries, different languages you're hearing every day. As far as transportation, you're on a crowded subway most of the time. You're hearing sirens, you're hearing whatever. It's just busy. Being in a country like China and then moving to a big city like Beijing and Shanghai, it pretty much is the same thing. But a lot of people that I onboarded with through the first job that I did, a lot of them didn't come from, big cities like that. One of my co-teachers, she was from a small, I think, town in Pennsylvania. They don't have like public transportation. They don't have like big skyscrapers or like, it's a small rural town. So, she had a hard time adjusting and, even things like, so I remember the first day where we went to like get our documents or something for our school. And I already knew like in my head, like, okay, these taxi drivers are out here, but they're not actual taxis. They're like what you would call like the black cabs back here that want to charge you, overprice you. So, she was ready to jump in and be like, I just want to get back to the hotel. And I'm like, skirt, pump the brakes. First of all, we don't know that man from Adam. Second of all, he doesn't have official taxi tags, meaning he's probably going to overcharge us to get wherever we need to go. And third, the subway's right here. We could figure it out. We could read a subway map. So it was just things like that that already popped in my head that didn't, really think to her because she's used to probably just jumping in a car and going everywhere she has to go. But, for some people, it's really like a culture shock. And a lot of people ask me, like, did you have culture shock? And I'm like, not once. Not once. And for some people, I actually visually witnessed how it affected them being in such a big city and not being able to navigate it because they weren't used to it. Whereas I'm over here like, yeah, I sit on a crowded train every day. I have people push me in the train every day. It's nothing new.
Right,
It's
right.
everyday life. So yeah, I think that's also things that people need to consider when they're going other places is how like read up on like how to get around if you're not comfortable with the train or the bus, how else can you get around safely? You know, what is the temperament of like if people are coming off of work, is it going to be crowded or, what's the slow times? Maybe you might want to travel when it's not so busy, just so you feel more comfortable. Things like that, to consider because it can overwhelm you and it can come to the point where a lot of people get homesick or they're just like, I can't do this. And it could be a bad experience. And, a lot of people don't bounce back from that and they're like, no, I'm not with this traveling thing anymore. And it's like, you know, you don't wanna say that because you do wanna see the world, but you don't wanna hinder yourself either, so it's like yeah, I think people need to take that into consideration.
100%,
Yeah.
100%. And you've
Mhm.
given us a lot to work with, right?
Mhm.
Sharing both those good and, bad experiences and
Mhm.
those in between ones, right? Like everything
Yeah,
is not going to be perfect. And I think
of
that
course
people have
not.
to go with that realistic visualization that you're going
Mhm.
to have those good days and those not so good days. And you just have to take
For
this as
sure.
a learning experience, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kellen.
I'm so happy to have you. I'm happy that you were able to join us and share your experiences with us. Just anything else you want to add and kind of maybe just share what you're doing next with us?
Mhm. Anything I want to add? I just wanna tell people go for it. Whatever comes your way, whether it be traveling or professional opportunity, just go for it. Don't worry about, "Oh, I might not have the qualifications," or, "I might, not be safe," or whatever. Go for it. Definitely do your research first, inform yourself, educate yourself, but go for it, man. Life is too short. And,
Well said.
yeah. Yeah, that's my tea of the day.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
hanging with us today. I look forward to seeing everyone on the next episode. It has been wonderful. Bye.